Hi folks, Sandy, and welcome to today's Kendo rant. Sorry for the quality of the video today. I normally film this all on my iPhone, but I've left my tripod at home, so I'm filming it straight on my webcam. So it might be a little bit lower quality than normal. It's been about a week. In fact, I think it's been exactly a week since I last did one of these videos. So sorry for the short break from the Kendo rant videos. I had to make a short trip to Japan. It was indeed a very short trip. I was there for 3 nights. But yeah, I'm back now, and I'm back ranting. So just before I get stuck into the questions, I did post a brand new episode of the Kendo Show that's all about Waza. I was really happy with the episode. It is on the channel, so go and check that out if you haven't seen it already. Some of the questions that we've got today are actually from that video, so you might understand them a little bit better if you've seen it. So, right, let's get into the questions. There's quite a lot today. Today's probably going to be a long episode because, like I say, I've had a week off from doing it. So the questions have sort of built up a little bit, but I'll try and get through them as smoothly as I can. Okay, so let's get started. Okay. Hi, Andy. I'd love to hear your opinion on the differences between Kaeshi Waza and Suriage Waza. I've heard many different opinions, about this over the years, especially men Kaeshi men or men Suriage men. For the rest of the Waza, like men Kaeshi do, it's quite obvious, of course. My view is the Suriage motion is part of the strike or moving up with the sword, deflecting the incoming strike, whilst Kaeshi Waza block the incoming strike somehow instead of deflecting it. Other people said it's basically the same at very close, or at least very close Waza, with the difference being that Suriage Waza take place at the same side of the opponent's shinai, while Kaeshi Waza is always done on the other side, so moving from ura to omote side. When I began with Kendo, Debana Waza was considered Oji Waza. Now it's seen as Shikaki Waza. Is that a German thing, or did it happen somewhere? Did the same happen somewhere else? Okay, cool. Great question. First off, right. First off, before we get into this too deeply, what I do want to say is, and I've said this before in a few videos, is we have a real tendency outside of Japan to get really stuck on the terminology. All right, is this Suriage men? Is this Kaeshi men? Is this Kiriotoshi men? Is this men? Is this that? Or is this that? Is Debana Waza, like your last one, is Debana Waza? Is it Oji Waza? Is it Shikaki Waza? Is it this Waza? Is it that Waza? And it doesn't work like that so much in Japan because it's not terminology there, it's just their language, which is obviously organic and kind of somewhat flexible. So what you'll find is some people in different dojos in Japan will use different words for the same thing because, like I say, it's the language, it's organic. And I've heard people call Suriage Waza Kaeshi Waza, yeah, because Kaisu can mean to return. Okay, so some people use it as in okay, so you return their strike. Okay, so Suriage is kind of a type of Kaeshi Waza. Is in a kind of replacement to how we often hear the term Oji Waza. But I don't think that's the root question. I think what you're really asking about is about the movements of what I described in that video of men Suriage men and men Kaeshi men. So basically, yeah, Suriage. Okay, Suriage means to kind of brush upwards. Okay, brush upwards, and it's the same. It's the same suri or suru as in suriashi when we talk about suriashi. I'll just bring it up on the dictionary right now so that I can get the right. Yeah, it means to. It kind of the kanji that's used for suru is the one that's used for like to kind of rub actually. Okay, or slide against. So when you're doing suriashi, for example, you slide your feet across the floor, and it's the same movement, yeah. And in the suriage, okay, against the opponent's sword is the kind of idea, right? And ageru means to lift, okay, so upwards, to go upwards, okay. So this sweeping against the opponent's sword, brushing against it, sliding against it upwards is suriage, okay. So as you bring the shinai up this way and brush against that shinai to return the strike, that's suriage, all on the opposite side, okay? Kaeshi Waza is usually used when it means to kind of have a kind of return of the wrists, all right? So when your wrists go from one side to the other, okay? So like with men Kaeshi do, you kind of receive the shinai and bring it round to this side, like you said, from the kind of omote to ura, pam pam this way, or pam pam for men. It's the same. Okay. It's best not to think of it too much as a block and return, rather as a single movement. But that's, you know, it is a different movement, okay? Because indeed you are receiving on one side of the shinai and then returning on the other, as you would with kote Kaeshi men as well, okay? So that's how Kaeshi Waza is kind of interpreted. The Kaeshi here is it's the same interpretation of Kaeshi as when we do kiri Kaeshi, yeah? There's a kind of you're returning. I can't. It's not really returning, but you're kind of turning your wrists this way as you do kiri Kaeshi and Kaeshi Waza. Okay, this way. Okay, I hope that makes some sort of sense. It's not a super important thing, though, like I say, because you shouldn't be thinking it as fixed terminology and more of it's just language. Okay, there's just different ways to return your opponent's strike. In terms of your Dabana Waza and being considered Oji Waza and now seen as Shikaki Waza, yeah, some people think of it as Dabana Waza, some people, think of it as Oji Waza, some people think of it as Shikaki Waza, some people think of it as something separate. That's how I tend to think of it, because essentially Oji Waza are kind of also Shikaki Waza. If you think about it, you're supposed to do the Shikake, the actual start. You're supposed to make them start, as opposed to waiting. But again, it's more, you know, it's a real fixed thing on the terminology that, but you'll hear different things in different places. And again, next question goes on about from the audio as a video, and it's similar to the last one. It says, thank you not only answering the question, thank you. A couple of videos ago, making a video. Okay, I have another question. Why perform men Suriage men over men Kaeshi men? What's the difference? Okay, so again, we talked about Suriage being this side, and Kaeshi where you receive this side and then hit on the other side. Why would you use one more than the other? Well, mainly personal preference. It could be situational, depends on how the opponent sort of reacts after striking. If they kind of lift their arms up like this, it can be quite hard to get Kaeshi Waza in. It could be hard to get Suriage Waza in. I mean, the main reason you would choose the Waza is based on your own preference, which you feel you're better at or you're most comfortable with. I would say that Suriage Waza takes less time than Kaeshi Waza, because it's a smaller technique, bam bam, like this, whereas with Kaeshi Waza you've got to receive and then get the shinai all the way around this side. So I don't find Kaeshi Waza that useful, as opposed to Suriage Waza, but again, it really depends. So it's a really situational thing. The best thing is to figure out which one you have a preference for, and then you can sort of think about it from that point of view. Okay, next question. If you don't mind me flipping perspectives, what do you do as the attacker when you realize you've been had and they are, for example, off your line and throwing men nukido? Okay, so this is in response to the Ojiwaza video. Turning shoulders and taking hidari men seems like a bad play. You're not on the correct line. You should no longer have the opening that's prompted your aggression. Abandoning the attack to challenge their hands and pushing their attack from do to your hips seems late. And bad form. Besides, changing to kote is late. It won't be ippon. Tsuki isn't really valid. Okay. Oh, you just lost. It seems incorrect to me to simply write off the situation simply because the moment's bad read. It feels like there should be some way to cancel the ippon with an ayuchi somewhere, but I'm just not good enough to see it. What do you think? Okay, so what you're saying is, okay, so what I talked about in the video was how you, if you want to do men nukido, for example, you pressure them and then you get them to hit. You get them to hit, but they come a little bit slower than you were probably hoping, so you couldn't do your Dabana men. It wasn't really good. They don't have the good timing for you to do the Dabana Waza, so they're coming at a slightly slower pace. So instead, bam, you hit the nukido. Right. The situation you're describing, to be honest with you, is really unlikely to happen, because either they wouldn't have been able to do the nukido in the first place, so nothing would have come from it, or by the time they're hitting the nukido, the time you've realized is too late. Nukido happens after you've attacked. It's technically Ojiwaza because it's technically a strike after your attack has been made. All right, it's a little bit different to Dabana Waza where they attack at this point, they attack at this point. So it's different. Okay, so the fact is that your attack's already been made when they're hitting Nukido. So there's not much you can do at that point because you've already made your attack. All you can hope is that they messed up their Nukido. Yeah, and you're not going to realize partway through, all right? Because if you do, they're not going to go for Nukido. It just doesn't play out like that in real life. If you go to attack, right, and then they come for Nukido, and then you realize that you've been had, like you say, then yeah, I mean, you can try to defend yourself. You could try to drop your hands. You might get a crack on the elbow, which will hurt. You know, you could try and do that, but you ain't going to get some sort of Ayuchi or any sort of defensive Waza or anything like that in there. It's just too small of an opportunity for that to happen. All right. Okay, next one. I'm really enjoying your videos. I've been doing Kendo for the past 14 years, on and off, and I've had to break due to all kinds of stuff. I live and work in Osaka and practice 1 to 4 times a week where possible. I'm currently going to take my 3rd Dan test next month. I'm very tall, liking your video about height. I'm 192 centimeters. I feel I can hold my own against 4th and 5th Dan, no issues. However, 6th and up always tell me the same thing. Motto mai ni don 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 don. They tell me to push off my left and use it more. I've asked them for exercise how to do this, as I'm physically unable to push off any more than I am already. I normally return home with tight calves because of this. I try to do a lot of Kaeshi Waza or counters. Then I get yelled at for that. Because I'm so big at such reach, why am I not using my body to move forward? I recently went to high school teacher practice, and several other people I've never done Keiko with before said I have very nice Kendo. You just need to push forward more, and his suggestions would be great. Thanks. Okay, so right, let's recap that. Okay, you're super tall, especially in Japan. You're a giant. Okay, you're like the Godzilla of Kendo. Great, that's a brilliant thing, and it is a super massive advantage. And I totally actually agree with everything that's being said to you, but I think you might be slightly taking it in the wrong direction, because yes, you can only physically push forward so much, right? Now, off your left leg, all right? Now, you're probably not doing it enough. That's why they're all saying it, yeah? They're probably right in that you aren't pushing off more. There aren't a lot of exercises you could do to do it better. All you can do is keep concentrating on pushing as far as you can with your left leg. But I think when you're being said things like motto mai ni, don 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 don, okay, that's in Japanese, that means go forward more. And yeah, and they're saying that you're doing lots of Kaeshi Waza counter stuff like that. Yeah, it's not going to get you through. I don't know. Especially for 3rd Dan, they don't want to see you doing Oji Waza and stuff like that. They just want to see you do that you can do the basics. I think what they're talking about more is as opposed to you going physically forward, I think you probably find that you have your intentions aren't going forward enough. All right, so it's not so much that you have to leap further forward, okay, or jump farther. All right, obviously that's always better as much as you can. You have to continue working on that. But I think what they're trying to say to you is that your intentions are settled backwards, awaiting this way, and then Kaeshi Waza. Kaeshi Waza, Oji Waza, yeah? Whereas they want to see you being more hungry to attack and pushing your intentions forward and insisting your will on your opponent, as opposed to being sort of withdrawing and, yeah, doing those counter attacks. I know, yeah, I mean, yeah, you probably will get told, especially because you're so big. But frankly, it's kind of irrelevant to your height. It's the same for everybody. You should be always going forward and being positive in the interaction. And that's the same for whether you want to do Kaeshi Waza or you want to do counter Waza as well. That has to come from a place of going forward, a forward intention. Come on then. If you don't come and hit me, I'm going to hit you. You're not coming, okay, bam, I'm going to hit you. Yeah, that's the kind of way you've got to go. Okay, come on then, come and get me. And then they attack. Bam! Okay, I was ready for you. Right, next one. Right, turn around, start again. Yeah, okay, let's go. Come and hit me. Come and get me. You're not coming. Bam! I'm going to hit you again. Okay, that's the sort of kind of attitude that they want to be seen, and I'm pretty sure that's what they mean. Especially when you're getting told things like, motto mai ni don 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 don. That's the kind of thing that I'm pretty sure they mean by that. All right, it's less of a physical thing, more of a sort of intention, something to do with your intentions. Okay, I'm getting a dry throat, so I'm just gonna have a sip of coffee. I hope that makes sense. It's a tough one, all right, but just keep it up. Right, next one. I'm just going to give this a bit of context. We launched a new Borg set on KendoStar, so I'm going to plug it here as well. It's a bit dark to see. This is the new V1. This one's mine, so I've used it a little bit, so it's a little bit battered, but it's well good. It's really, really good. It's like basically what I did is I wanted to have the best entry-level Borg set on the market. So what I did is I went out, I got the Vanguard, which is our most popular set, the 10mm super thick, super extra protective set. It's totally our best-selling set. Totally can see why. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of just see what I could do to make it even more affordable and an easier reach of people that were on a tighter budget. So we used to have the Hibiki set, which was like a 5mm kind of standard Hyojun Gata Borg set, which was fine, but KendoStar's always been for me about having a Borga that's protective, comfortable, and really suited for the international market. So what I wanted is I wanted something that would sit below the Vanguard as an easier step into our range, and that's where I came up with this as a V1. And essentially, it's a lot like the Vanguard. It uses the same 10mm stitching. It's really nice, thick, padded. It's got the same stitching on the Mendai, so it's really, really comfortable. Look how soft and flexible and easy to wear that is. It's so comfortable. It's really great. There's a video all about how great it is. Go and watch that. It's on the channel as well. The reason I'm talking about it, not only is that I think you should be recommending it to all the people in your club that are looking for a first Borga set, especially if they're on a budget. If they can't afford the Vanguard, then this is here to save the day, all right? Because it is absolutely fantastic and definitely worth checking out. Okay, that's called the V1 Borg set. And the reason I'm bringing that up right now is because I've got a question on the video that I posted about it and I want to address in this video. It's a very short and sweet one, and then I'll go back to answering questions about Kendo instead of selling my Borg. Okay, so on the V1 video, it says, hello Andy, I'd like to know if it's allowed in tournaments and gradings. Thanks for all the videos, advices, information, teaching. Okay, so yes, it's perfectly great for all uses. Of course, I wouldn't put anything out there that would only be good for one or two purposes. That's one thing that does separate it a little bit from other entry-level Borg sets. I know you can go out there and spend $300 or something on a cheap and nasty Borg set these days, but we don't do that at KendoStar. This is a set that it doesn't look like a cheap Borg set. It looks like a cool Borg set. It feels like a cool Borg set. It lasts like a cool Borg set. You can use it for any purpose. You can use it for everyday training. You can use it for your shiai, and you can use it for your gradings without a problem at all. Once you invest in this one, it'll be good to go for a long time. All right, so that's the great thing about the V1. All right, so that's enough plugging that. It really is good. It really is good, though. You can probably tell how enthusiastic about it. Even I'm wearing it, and even though it's our cheapest Borg, pretty much, it's like the entry level Borg on our website. I'm using it myself because I do find it really easy and comfortable to use. And of course, I test them all out before I sell them anyway. So anyway, go and check it out. That's the V1. Right, let's get back to Kendo questions. Hi Andy, I hope you're well. I know there's no rants for the time being. Oh, that's because this came to me whilst I was away. Okay. I was wondering on what's your thoughts on explaining the concept of Ichigan Nisoku Santan Shiriki, again aimed at teaching kids, but also part of learning that seems only mentioned to beginners and never again. Right. That's a tough question, isn't it? Let me make sure I get the translation of this right, because I don't want to get somebody's back up if I get this translated wrong. Okay, so let me give you the quick answer first. All right, first off is again aimed at teaching kids. Forget it. The kids don't need to know about Ichigan Nisoku Santan Shiriki. Right? They don't need this sort of stuff. Right? Kids need stuff that's fun, enjoyable. They don't need stuff that's too in depth in sort of esoterical concept stuff like that. They don't need to know about Fudoshin. They don't need to know about Kigurai, any of that sort of stuff. All they need to do is try their best and enjoy it. Okay, and then they'll keep coming. Okay, and just you have to keep them trying their best and teach them about of course, manners, because that's part of what Kendo gives us, especially kids. But you don't have to start going into concepts like ichigan ni soku, santan shiriki. In terms of what they are, it's basically like it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Ichigan eyes, ni soku feet, san is like tan is like bravery. Riki is power, strength, and it's kind of like there's a lot of interpretations of it, but it's kind of a bit like the I think it's like the priorities of things is how it's talked about. So like you have to be focused on the eyes, and then the having the footwork, and I'm not going to go into it in massive detail. I've not super researched that, to be honest, and I don't want to get it wrong. And it's not a concept that I've personally put that much into. Someone asked me to translate it once years and years ago, and that's why I know a little bit about it, but I don't want to get into it right now because it's a really deep concept and it's definitely too deep for kids and beginners. It's not something that they need to worry about. Okay, next one. Right, this is a long one, all right, and I know we're already 20 odd minutes into this, all right, so you might want to pause this, put the kettle on or something. I'm having another cup of tea. Right. Okay. I've got a couple of questions possibly for your Kendo rants. I've been reflecting. This is on the Kendo Show Early Access group, by the way. If you're not in that group, get in it. There's a link in the description. That's where I post the instructional videos early before anybody else gets to see them. So that's where the video on Waza that went there first before it went anywhere else. So make sure you're in that video. That group. It's free to join. Of course, it's a group on Facebook. You just click join. It comes through to me, I approve it, and you go in, and that's it. And you can post your questions there. There's loads of conversation and stuff going on in there. It's a great group to be in. Right, so let's get to these questions. One, how do we reconcile the imperative of cultivating humility with the desire of some to maintain a competitive spirit? This seems to be a major contradiction, even if Shiai is indeed an occasion to put your skills to the test. I find that despite the main goal of Kendo is to become better people in general, and despite the etiquette making it in bad taste to display your competitive side, there is, like in many other sports, a lot of pettiness and sometimes unhealthy competition going on. But unlike other sports disciplines, it will simply be hidden because the etiquette demands it, instead of being out of virtue because we worked on our character. Have you ever given this any thought? Do you have to deal with that in yourself or in others? What do you put in place to foster a healthy relationship to tournaments for your students? Another question related to the previous one. One of my flaws is that I don't like Shiai at all. I still participate, but reluctantly do. I do not reject it because of the fighting part in and of itself, as I do believe it is the only way to truly test where your Kendo is at. But my main gripe is the format. It's very punishing for those who don't make it out of the pools. Driving sometimes 200 kilometers and taking 6 or 7 hours just for 2 bouts isn't my idea of good use of my time. To put in relation with my previous question on how I believe competitive spirit, which is I do not equate with the desire to win an individual bout, is a hindrance to the betterment of character that Kendo stands for. Makes it very hard for me to actually enjoy those moments despite all the Mitori Geiko that might be available. Do you have any advice to correct this particular problem, or at least making the experience easier? Okay, this is a great question because I think it's something that affects a lot of people, frankly. Right, where am I going to start? I actually, the guy that posted this, I actually posted on this to ask for some clarifications and sent me a message, which is great. So I feel like I understand your position a bit better now. Right. Right. How do we reconcile the imperative of cultivating humility with the desire of some to maintain a competitive spirit? Okay, so right, you can be competitive and like really competitive and try your hardest to win and try your hardest not to lose. And you can do all of that whilst remaining humble and improving your character. It's not wrong to want to win. It's not wrong to win. It's not wrong to try and win. It's wrong to boast about winning, I guess. It's wrong to. That's why we're not allowed to do the fist pump in Kendo. Yeah, you're not allowed to celebrate your victory in front of the defeated people or rub it in the face. But yeah, I mean, I don't see those at odds. I guess is my thing with this. I know you've sort of also mentioned that like sometimes people are just driven by a desire to win at all costs, and not into a mindset of wanting to win to learn something. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if that's the case. I always feel like those people that just want to win the competitions without. I mean, it's not wrong to be motivated by the Shiai. Actually, I don't think that's wrong at all. You don't have to be motivated by cultivating yourself as a person. You can be motivated by results in Shiai. That's perfectly fine. I don't see that as a problem because they go hand in hand anyway. And if you're doing them both properly, then even if your goal isn't to become a better person through Kendo, if you practice Kendo hard enough, not hard enough, but diligently enough, and you follow it properly, and you do improve your ability in Shiai, then you will, that will follow. I believe. I don't really know of many people that are super excellently skilled at Shiai or tournaments that are also like have got serious like massive character flaws. I mean, don't get me wrong; it doesn't mean that like they're all like brilliant, upstanding, wonderful people. And I know, of course, there have been some cases of people that are in high positions or of high achievers that have sort of found themselves on the wrong side of the law for certain reasons. I mean, there's obviously going to be certain cases, but I'm talking on the whole. I don't think you also mentioned in one of the comments that like it maybe sometimes permeates through and corrupts Kendo's good intentions. We can see this at all levels. Illegal moves such as dangerous throws, even in top level competitions. Now, I don't see that. I don't really see that. I don't see illegal throws happening that much. Certainly not in top level competition. I know you might be referring to the World Championships final, but most of that stuff wasn't actually illegal. It was a bit rough and tumble. It wasn't pretty. I know that, but on the both sides, it doesn't mean that those two people like were suddenly bad people or they hated each other or something like that. They were just doing their best to win, which is part of what it's at. That's what it's about. I don't really see that as wrong. Moving on to your next point about you said you don't like Shiai at all. I still participate, but reluctantly. And your gripe is that the format is very, very punishing for those who don't make it out of the pools. I know what you're saying. I know what you mean, and it is difficult, especially when you have to travel so far and you don't do very well. But that's part of the idea, isn't it? That like there's supposed to be a consequence to losing, other than just like feeling a bit rubbish. Okay, so when you go to this tournament, sometimes you don't make it out the pools, and you've gone all that time just for 2 hours, not 2 hours, just for 2 minutes or so of 2 matches or whatever. And yeah, that feels like I don't think you should look at it as a waste of your time. Actually, I think it's an extremely good use of your time, because you should be able to go away with that. And as you're mentioning, as you're talking about, using Kendo to prove yourself, you then be able to go away with that and say, okay, well, next time I don't want to go all that way only to have 2 matches. I want to have 3 matches. I want to have 4 matches. So I need to improve, and you'll use that to improve yourself, both your ability and your mindset. So I don't necessarily disagree with that concept either. And I don't get me wrong, I think it's great when there are other tournaments that let you have more matches. I think that's important as well. But I've had that experience. I mean, I've gone to the other side of the world and only had 1 or 2 matches. So and I understand the disappointment. I really do. But you kind of have to take that as part of it, and take that as part of your learning process, as to what as to what you need to do to improve. It is a positive thing. It is a good use of your time. And of course, there is the Mitori Geiko. There is the fact that you can interact with other Kendoka. That's also an important part of it. It really is as well. But more importantly, going there and just losing in the pools can be a really strong catalyst for you if you use it in the right way. but that's on you to do that. You know what I mean? You can't, I think it's very dangerous to get yourself in the mindset of, well, I don't like Shiai because if I go 200 kilometers and I only get 2 matches, that's part of the point. Back in the day when what the root of Shiai was, it wasn't that you only had 2 matches, you got killed, when it was a real Shinken Shobu. And I know that I've said loads that Kendo's not about sword fighting, but this is the principle of the sword that we're bringing into Kendo, that we're studying, is the concept of Shinken Shobu. And yeah, you might drive 200 kilometers, you might 6-7 hours, you might only have 2 matches, but you walk away with that with something to learn from and to work with. And I think it's important that there is that sort of consequence to losing as well. Because if you had a Shiai every week at the end of the road, and it would, like I say, it was every week and it was just around the corner, it was only 10 minutes away, then you could lose every day and it wouldn't really matter. And not every day, but every time you lost, it wouldn't be as big of a defeat. So I think that's really important. That's how I look at it anyway. And I have had that experience. Trust me, I have. I really have. Had it a lot in Japan, actually. Anyway, right. Halloween's are coming. Could you please enlighten us with how Kendo would assist us in a zombie apocalypse, both mentally and physically? How would Kendo help us in the zombie apocalypse? Well, of course, you'd be great if you got your hands on a pool cue or like a sword would be good, or a bokuto. I reckon I'd do all right with a bokuto, to be fair. I mean, like I say, it's not about sword fighting, but they're zombies. They're not gonna have swords, and it's not like depends on the zombie though. To be fair, depends if they're like those really fast ones that are from I haven't seen that film in ages, but the one with what was it called? 28 Days Later or something, where they ran really fast. If it's like that, or like from The Last of Us, The Last of Us, yeah, then I don't know, because they could be a bit unpredictable. If you're talking about like Resident Evil 1 style, really slow, like mindless zombies, yeah, then I'd be alright, I reckon. As long as, well, yeah. Yeah, with a bokuto, I reckon I'd do alright with a bokuto or 2, because I'd probably break 1 or 2. It depends how squishy they are as well, I think. I don't know. But I think you do alright. You've got this sort of the training of your eye and stuff. You can sort of predict the movements. Obviously, you've got a bokuto, so you've already got the kit. I don't know if I'd bother putting on my armor because I don't want to, restrict my vision and stuff like that. In terms of mentally, yeah, you could probably keep you calm. Would it keep you calm? I don't know. Zombies, man, zombies. Not so sure about that. But yeah, it could be. Hey, I reckon I'd do alright. I don't fancy a go at it, but hopefully there won't be a zombie apocalypse and we won't have to worry about it. But yeah, happy Halloween. Right. Okay, we're getting there. Andy, I have a question for you about teaching of kata. What is the preferred frequency of delivery? Is it something that could be delivered once a month, bi-weekly, weekly, etc.? Coming from a previous martial art, I appreciate the importance of kata. It's not something to be practiced just before grading. This is where I say something controversial and I light up the internet again, like when I said that Kendo isn't sword fighting. All right, you practice kata just before a zombie apocalypse. Now, right. You can practice kata as much as you want to practice kata. All right, you can practice as much as you want to practice it. I'm not good for this, right? Because I don't practice kata that much. I did kendo a lot in Japan, and we don't practice kata that much in Japan. I did used to go to practice actually where we did kata like twice a month, I think, and I used to go to one of them. So I used to do it once a month. But I think once a month is plenty. Frankly, I think so. If you want to do more than that, then do. Absolutely. Especially if you enjoy it, that's great. But I think like once a month is definitely enough to keep it sharp. Because there's only 10 of them. It's not like and you can practice them at home or if you're going to grade though, before grading, and you want to be doing it a lot before you're grading, but to keep it sort of topped up, then once a month is pretty much plenty. Twice a month, once a week, whatever you want to do. But you know, it's not one of those things that if you don't do it once a week. I've seen people that do kata like 3 times a week and they're still really bad at it. So it's not really just a case of, it's like any part of Kendo really, it's not just how often you do it either, it's how well you do it, how much effort you put into it, how you know, the quality of the practice is also super important in that. So bear that in mind too. Next and final one. How do you deal with people who enjoy being rough / humiliating weaker practitioners with their own satisfaction, as opposed to being rough within the limits of earnest practice in a way that supports your partner's development and commitment? Because sometimes, and for some, the line between the two can be fine. What do you think can be done at a wider level to foster goodwill between each other? Okay. I've got to say, I've never met somebody that's doing what you're talking about, like that's being rough for the sake of humiliating weaker people. I mean, obviously that's abhorrent behavior. You shouldn't do that. If you're like pushing people around just because you want to exert your dominance, or you want to like humiliate them in some way, or you want to make them feel weak, yeah, you're kendoing wrong. You know, that isn't how it's supposed to be. So how you deal with it is, I mean, if it's somebody that's doing it in your club, then it's difficult, because obviously if it's like the club leader or the sensei or something, then it could be one of two things. I mean, one, yeah, it could be someone on an ego trip, but it could be that you don't quite, you know, you could be misunderstanding a little bit what their intentions are. It's hard to tell without knowing their true intentions, because I know there are some teachers that are particularly rough, like, because there is like a school of teachers in Japan that are like that, and if they receive teaching like that and they're passing that on, and from the outside, especially from a Western perspective, it does look a little bit like you're just beaten down to sort of, yeah, like I say, exert dominance, whereas actually there's something else behind it. But if it's like another student in the club that's like beating up on someone and pushing them around and stuff, then yeah, it's got to have a stop put to it. You've got to be like, look, you can't be doing that, man. That isn't how it's done. But I have to say, like I said, I haven't seen it before. It's just not something I've seen. And I've seen some pretty rough practices, but you know, for the most part, I pretty much understand what's going on. So yeah, I'm not sure it's a super prevalent thing. Is that something that you're seeing a lot? I don't know. Let me know. What can be done at a wider level to foster goodwill between each other? Well, I don't really know what can be done at a wider level. I mean, what we can do, each of us, is do our best to practice our hardest and earnestly, and also act with dignity and kindness towards our fellow practitioners. We have to become friends with each other, be kind to each other, both whilst we're practicing and whilst we're not practicing, and that in itself does so. And then also you have to make sure that you're not enclosed within your own group, and that you're doing your best to interact with other groups, other clubs, other dojos, going to tournaments even if they're a long way away, and you only get 1 or 2 matches, in order to foster goodwill and make friends with other clubs, so that you can potentially have that sort of what do you call it? In Japanese, they call koryu, like a kind of like interaction, you know, exchange of ideas sort of thing, an exchange of practice, crossing swords. They say koken chi is the Japanese phrase that says learn love by crossing swords, and that's very, very, very much important, I think. So it's got to come from you and everyone around you. Okay, so you have to lead by example, if nothing else. So that's it. That's the questions. Nice longer episode today, but I think that's pretty much caught up. Leave me a question. Let me know what you'd like me to rant on next time. You can leave it down below on this video. You can post in the early access group or whatever. Quick couple of things. Obviously, I've already plugged the. Did I mention the V1 bulk set that we've got at KendoStar? It's a really good new bulk set. Did I mention that? I can't remember if I talked about that. I think I mentioned that. But don't forget to shop at KendoStar.com. That's the website, obviously, that I run, that supports all of this. That's why I can make these videos. It's really, really good as well. Obviously, we've got the V1 bulk set. We've got loads of other great bulk sets over there. Check out the shinai as well if you're looking for shinai. If you like large grip shinai, we've got a final chance deal on these. These are 3 for the price of 2 right now. It's called Ichigeki. It's really, really thick, large grip shinai. Yeah, like I say, it's 3 for the price of 2, but they are being discontinued when stock runs out, okay? And I've literally, looking over there, we've got like a handful of sets left. So if you want a cheap but good not oval grip, large grip shinai, it's cheap because like I say, it's clearance. We're getting rid of them. Once these are gone, they're gone. So get over to KendoStar.com and check those out as well. All right, that's enough plugging that. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. Join the early access group, and I think that's it. See you all next time.